Ooh, I got a glitch still. Oh well. Anyway, welcome back to the Hype Mind. I'm Bear. I'm one of your hosts. I'm here with Daniel, your other host. And today we're talking about resentment, especially towards your parents, anger and resentment and hatred towards your parents. I think that's something a lot of people experience. I think age doesn't matter when it comes to that, but as you're younger, you feel that. As you get a little older, maybe like crossing out of the teens and into the 20s, you really start to want to blame someone for your upbringing. And so naturally you are inclined to look at your parents. And and that's what we're talking about today because that doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve them. It doesn't serve anybody to do that. And so what do you do with that resentment, with that anger, with that
Dude,
hatred?
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It doesn't serve you. So this is why we're looking into it.
Yeah.
Because it don't. It's like a lot of the pain that you'll feel, suffering that you go through from, having these emotions like anger, resentment, are all something that is like self-created. Like you just
Right.
see your situation, like you're not having any like physical pain right now, or it's something that because of how you see the situation that you're not even going through anymore, that was in the past, because you see it a certain way, you're causing present pain.
Well, that's it. That's it's if you rewind, it's your perception of what happened in your childhood when you were a child. And when you were a child, you were making the best understanding of a situation that you could come to with your brain in whatever stage of development it was, right? So this is all just a stepping stone. Um, because back then you were so young that when someone said, "No, you're not allowed to shred dollar bills," you thought that meant that you had to act a certain way around your parents. Or when someone told you that they would rather play baseball, you thought it meant that they didn't like doing what you like doing, right? And so all these little things where it was really just everybody has their own interests. As a child, you took that personally. That's the big word is as a child, you only know how to take things personally. The world revolves around you. You as a child were for your own growth, you have to have a frame of mind of the world revolves around me. But the downside to that is you took everything personally. And so any small rejection, any small action could easily be perceived as a rejection. And the results are here you are now in your 20s. And in your 20s, you're sitting here, experiencing this way of life that doesn't serve you. And like I said earlier, that's also a stepping stone is being in a state of mind where you're like, God, I hate these people. Like, yeah, maybe you have to hate them to come to a greater place of being able to accept yourself and everybody else, and including your parents. But that's part of the process is experiencing hatred a lot of times, experiencing resentment.
Yeah, and this reminds me of maturity. Like this is maturity right here. You were a child, right? It was okay to be a child and to be in need and have to listen to your parents at that time. But now
Right.
that's changed. And so with that, with that change comes a new worldview too, of
Right. Exactly.
an
Yes.
understanding of the past, like you were a kid, and
So
that's fine.
here's the here's what some of that understanding looks like. You know, by the time a lot of people are watching a video like this and coming to an understanding, a state of consciousness of their own anger at their parents, right? It's no longer something you don't know is going on. You feel it, but you're like, I don't get what's going on. Now you're in a state of consciousness usually by this time, and you're sitting here going, wow, I really resent my parents. I really hate them. And this might look like this for years, especially if you do nothing about it, right? But this is a call to mature even more, just like you did when you were a child. Now you're a teenager. Now you're a young adult. The same thing, right? It's just another step to maturity that you can enter into at any phase of your life, no matter how long you've experienced this. And that looks like realizing, or for me, this is what it looked like, was realizing that my parents were doing the best they could. They were coming from a place of their own woundedness from their parents that they probably didn't understand, or they would have showed me, hey, one way or another, you're going to be wounded by people as a child. You're just gonna, right? So once you could start to have that point of view where you're like, they were doing the best they can. I thought they were doing shit. They're still doing the best they can. Like, even if I'm like, man, I really need you to show up for me in this way. Some parents just can't figure that out. They just can't. They don't have that level of emotional maturity or understanding with other people. They just don't. They never learned it. And so having the maturity yourself to be able to say, wow, they never learned that from their parents. They never learned that from their friends, even at age 50, 60, 70, whatever. They're still stuck in their ways and they're going to be. My job is to accept them for who they are.
Yeah, cool. Um, yeah, I think I think you can see it in a different way than that too. It doesn't have to be a way of, like you said, you can
Negativity.
understand it you can see it in a different way. Um, and I mean, that's it. It's like you said, you came back to the past to try to understand your parents, but also to realize that you weren't, like, you were just a child. You understand from yourself where you were at too. You were just a child, and that's okay. And it's really changing your mentality from a victim mentality to someone that has their own, they're not subject. Their life isn't doomed, you know?
I'm no longer a child. Therefore, I no longer have to live like a child, a dependent,
Correct. Yeah.
immature, youthful person. I can now live as someone who can do for myself what I needed done by others as a child. Yes.
Yep.
And you could put a lot of positive spins on both of those. Whether you're owning the fact that you were a child then, whether you're owning the fact that your parents might be, you know, might have not shown up the way you hoped they would have then, or maybe they're not even showing up the way you hope they would now. You can let go of all that and own it all and say, they're doing the best they can right now. I was doing the best I could then when I was a child. My parents are doing the best they can now. My parents are doing the best they can then. Like, they're still whole, complete, loving people worthy of my love and other people's love.
Yeah. And
So,
you guys see what happened
you know,
there? You see what Andrew and me did is we, like, went back and just changed how we saw it. We
yes,
contemplated,
perspective,
we looked at the past and we said, okay, this is how I see it. Well, let me change how I see it. It's not really changing what happened. It's just changing how you saw it. And that's
right?
super powerful there. Nothing really happened, like, changed. No, your parents didn't come to you and they didn't apologize, didn't say they're sorry, which is maybe something you want. But they didn't
Right.
have to do that. It was you. You have all the power to just
You
change
do.
how you
Yeah.
see it. And that's really cool. That's wicked cool. And
And
you
we know
to
this.
live in your suffering from anger and resentment that you've been living in and let that slow you down. Let that just affect your current state of living. And this really gives you what it is to mature, which is ownership, right? Which is,
Yeah.
yeah, just realizing that, well, yeah, that was the past, but now I can take control. I can be the adult in my life and direct it in what way I think is best.
All of a sudden, you're the creator, you're the owner, you're the leader, you're the one accountable, you're the one in control. And those are all things we usually want anyway. We're usually looking to be in control. And so, you have to, if you really want it, you actually have to act like it. But we already know this way of being. It's like when you're going down the highway and someone cuts you off, you're angry. You're like, why would that guy do that to me? Right? Perspective. They're doing it to me. Right? But really, what you don't know is the car on the other side that almost sideswiped the guy who cut you off, and he had room, just enough room to slide in front of you, so he didn't get hurt, and he knew you weren't going to get hurt, etc. Right? we can't always see the bigger picture, especially as children. We almost never saw the bigger picture as children. And so, you know, don't forget, because I think we do this a lot, to take your understanding of the bigger picture and incorporate it into the really uncomfortable, hurtful scenarios of your life, especially like your relationship with your parents or your significant other, etc. Because a lot of times, because those people are closer to us, we expect them to love us. And so we kind of keep the picture small. We forget that they're still human, that they're still doing the best they can, that things are still happening in their lives that they don't know how to control. But
Yeah.
what you can control, like Daniel was saying, is what's going on in your life.
Yeah, and what's going on in your head.
Yes. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
The mental
Um,
picture.
no, it just reminds me of like even as a kid, it's just cool. It's like you are in survival mode. That's what it is to be immature. Like
Right.
you need other people. Like
Oh
you're
yeah.
dependent. And this is where you can feel very hurt is because at that time you were like, mom needs to feed me, dad needs to feed me. Like I don't know how to do
Right.
this myself. They need to provide me shelter. And then, you get stuck in that same way of thinking for a long time until you pull yourself out of it and mature. But yeah, I mean, it's understandable to have these feelings because you were in a place like that where
Yeah.
even the time you don't remember when you were a baby, it was like I need people.
Right.
It's not like
I know.
no,
How,
it's not
how
like
often
the animals
did you
out
get mad?
in the world who are born and then there they go. They already know how to provide for themselves, whatever, usually. But some of the animals that are hatched from, and they don't need their parents to teach
Right.
them.
Raise them.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I know. You should consider yourself lucky in that regard. But how often did we think, Mom, I need that piece of cake as a kid, and your mother knows better because it's sugar, right? But you're angry at her for that, right? And of course, those problems escalate and they're more validating. Right now, we can look back and we could say, well, I know now I didn't need that piece of cake, but I needed to see my friends. I'm really angry my parents didn't let me see my friends. That didn't make right. It's just a situation you haven't made sense of and accepted fully and trusted and just let go of. Um, so it really does. I like what you said about the brain because it really does come down to survival equals the loss of maturity. Like when you go into survival mode, you forget about being mature. You will cuss people out. You will throw fists. You will bite and pull hair. I have seen that firsthand with women. Not on me, but like when people go into survival mode and they're in their brain and they're in their thinking and they're in their basic human biology on a very like base level, they completely lose maturity, right? So, what do you value? Do you value maturity? Then you're going to have to monitor yourself and make sure you're not entering survival mode because you rarely ever have to. We live in a society that has built itself to a place where we we really like death is not really on the line most of the time. We just pretend it is. A house that's 10 degrees colder than usual and we act like we're going to die, so
Right. And then
that's all I got.
we have that part of us that can kick in when
Yeah.
necessary. It's
We
like
have to learn to
automatic.
control it,
Yeah.
master it.
Anyways, dude,
Well,
you
hey,
look like an ant right now.
huh?
There's
Yeah, I am an
some
ant.
big blades
Yeah,
of
I'm
grass behind you.
just gonna grab some of this sweet grass and climb it and look for some. No, I was gonna say I'm a tick. I'll just climb up a blade of grass and hop on someone's leg, but that doesn't sound very good. I'll stick with the ant. Beetle.
All right, there.
Hey, thanks for
All right,
watching,
guys.
guys.
Thanks for watching. Yep.
Yeah, be sure to hit subscribe. That helps us out so much. We're so grateful. Peace.
Done.